So, tonight I want to talk to you about inflammation because the one thing we know is inflammation is kind of the root to kind of all evil when it comes to health and wellness. So, uh, I want to really just briefly go over that and let you know some things you can do or some things you should avoid. So, inflammation is really a double-edged sword in the body. It's a natural, necessary part of the immune response. Now, chronic inflammation can lead to really a host of diseases and really just and make you not feel well. So it can lead to heart disease, your cancers, your diabetes, autoimmune disorders. So we really want to do things that we can control to really embrace kind of an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. So there's lots of things that we can do, and that's kind of the purpose of tonight. So first thing I want to just first kind of let you know that inflammation is a normal, healthy response uh, in the body. Now, inflammation is really the response to your body to any type of like illness, injury, infection, things like that. And it's really your immune system really signaling the need for healing and repair. Now, there's two types of inflammation, though. There's the acute inflammation, and acute inflammation is the one that's beneficial to us, and it's the one that's very localized. So this is the short term and localized. You get a cut, you get some redness and swelling maybe around that area, but it also resolves as the healing process starts. So what I'm going to talk about more is chronic inflammation. Now, this is the long term. It's systemic. It's often lower level inflammation, but it's throughout the body, and this can be triggered by stress, poor diet, lack of exercise, certain environmental toxins. But it's this chronic inflammation that is associated with many of the chronic diseases. So if we can do things to reduce chronic inflammation, you're really going to mitigate the risk of these diseases and really promote overall healthier lifestyle and just feeling better. So what's the role of nutrition in reducing inflammation? Nutrition is very important in the impact of inflammation. It plays a central role in either promoting or reducing inflammation in the body. This is because the foods that we eat can either trigger inflammatory pathways or they can help calm them down. So what are some things you can do to help kind of combat inflammation? Well, prioritize whole foods or unprocessed foods. So, your whole foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, lean proteins. These are really good for us. Also, fiber, really helps provide us essential nutrients to combat inflammation. Now, on the other side are the processed foods. So, we've talked about these before. These processed foods often they contain ingredients that are very pro-inflammatory. Your sugars, your artificial additives, your trans fats, your seed oils. All these things are pro-inflammatory. Now, what can we do? Well, we can embrace an anti-inflammatory diet. So, again, I'm talking in the general principle, and I know each of you have kind of a different approach to what your nutrition or what your diet looks like. But I'm talking really, really kind of at the 100,000-foot level here. So, anti-inflammatory diets that are rich in really plant-based foods, healthy fats, and lean proteins. That's really, really important. An example of this would be what's called the Mediterranean diet. This is a great example because it emphasizes fresh produce, whole grains and nuts, seeds, olive oil, and fatty fish.
Mm-hmm.
And then your fruits and vegetables, they contain antioxidants and phytochemicals. These things will help fight oxidative stress. So your berries, leafy greens, tomatoes, and citrus fruits are particularly effectively. Now, again, I'm talking about whole foods here. So these have not been processed. Now, another kind of category of things is your healthy fats. So your omega-3 fatty acids. These are found in your fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel. Then in addition, like walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds. These are all really very powerful anti-inflammatory agents. And then again, your seed oils are the opposite. So if you can do things to replace the seed oils with like an olive oil or extra virgin olive oil or an avocado oil, these are very, very anti-inflammatory. And then when we also talk about kind of nutrition, there's the herbs and spices. So your turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, garlic, these are all very uh, anti-inflammatory and have very high antioxidants properties. And that what I mean when I say antioxidant, that helps reduce the stress at the cellular level. So anytime you incorporate these things in your diet, it's going to help with inflammation. And then
Right.
whole grains, not refined grains, but whole grains, because when we have a grain that's been refined, you're removing or stripping away part of the grain that actually is the anti-inflammatory component. So whole grains, your oats, quinoa, brown rice, and those types of things are very good. And then legumes like your beans, lentils, chickpeas, they provide fiber and they also provide protein. They help stabilize our blood sugar and they really help support gut health. This really is important to limit inflammation. And then also, really avoiding the pro-inflammatory foods. So certain foods are known to really exacerbate inflammation, and we really should really try to minimize or avoid those as much as possible. So first is the refined carbohydrates. So your white breads, your pastries, sugary cereals. These are going to cause spikes in your blood sugar. They're going to cause really an increase in inflammatory response. Now, processed meats also fall into this category. So your hot dogs, sausages. Now, these are what I would call processed, but they're not highly processed. But again, really pay attention to the processed meats because a lot of the preservatives and the compounds in them are something that triggers inflammation. And then, sugar and sweetened beverages. This is a very significant culprit in an inflammatory process. So high intake of anything that has refined sugar is going to really lead to significant increase in your inflammatory markers. And we watch this most often through what's called the C-reactive protein. That's a blood test we can do to really see if you have inflammation going on. And then another one is alcohol. Now, alcohol is kind of a two-edged sword because there are certain red wines that are actually anti-inflammatory, but it's also in moderation. So 1 or 2 glasses of red wine would actually be considered anti-inflammatory, but pretty much all other alcohol is considered pro-inflammatory. That includes red wine when you drink it in excess. So, really pay attention to your alcohol consumption because it can really have a big effect on the inflammation process in your body. And again, our whole goal is we want to reduce inflammation because we know that this is kind of one of the foundational causes of really all illnesses. Whether it's a stroke, cancer, heart disease, inflammation is really the foundation that starts these disease processes. Now, lifestyle changes, the things we can do beyond diet is really various lifestyle factors that they play a significant role in managing inflammation. Addressing chronic stress, poor sleep, and really a sedentary life all contributes to increased inflammation. So stress management is really, really important. So chronic stress, it activates the body's fight or flight response. This is going to increase the release of these inflammatory hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, and this is going to really cause a stress induction of inflammation. So anything we can do to work on stress is going to help to mitigate this inflammation. So like mindfulness or meditation, these practices, they really help calm the mind. They reduce the physiological stress response. We've also talked about breathing exercises, deep diaphragmatic breathing can help activate kind of the parasympathetic nervous system that's going to reduce inflammation. And then as Tanya's done just recently with you is journaling and gratitude. Actually focusing on the positive experiences and practicing gratitude can greatly reduce stress and really improves your mental well-being while being pro anti-inflammatory. And then you want good regular physical activity. So, exercise is a powerful tool to reduce inflammation. It's going to help regulate your immune system. It's going to reduce fat tissue, and fat tissue is actually a major source of these inflammatory chemicals, specifically what we call visceral fat. That's the fat that's around the organs in our gut. And so anything we can do to really reduce that's going to help with inflammation. So we want to do things to reduce fat, and exercise is one of those things. Now, what type? Well, moving is what type I would say. Now, aerobic exercises, you're walking, running, cycling, swimming, those help reduce inflammation. They're going to help reduce the visceral fat, and they improve your cardiovascular health. But strength training also has where you're building up muscle, also decreases inflammatory markers and will improve your metabolic health. And then things like yoga or Tai Chi, these are great because they kind of combine both that physical activity and that mindfulness, that stress reduction. So these are good techniques to use to help kind of combat inflammation by two sources with the stress and exercise. And then sleep is often something that we undervalue. A good sleep hygiene is essential to really combat inflammation and really in your overall health. So poor sleep is going to disrupt your body's circadian rhythms. That increases your inflammatory markers. So you want to make sure you're shooting for 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep, and you do that by first establishing a routine. Go to bed and wake up at the same time, even on the weekends. You can't. We often want to bank, so a lot of time people will will have reduced sleep during the week, and then they think they're going to catch up on the weekend. That doesn't really work. You need to have that maintain that established, just a good routine. And then you also want really a restful environment. So things like keeping your bedroom cool and dark and quiet. Don't do things in bed other than sleep, such as watching TV, playing on your phone. All these types of things, the blue light can interfere with the production of melatonin, and this is going to really interfere with your sleep. And then your diet has a big impact on sleep too. So avoid heavy meals, caffeine, alcohol just before bed, because this is going to disrupt your sleep quality. And then, working on your weight, maintaining that healthy weight is really important because of the excess body fat. Like I already said, excess body fat is pro-inflammatory. That's where a lot of these inflammatory cytokines come from. So really making sure that we're constantly paying attention to our weight and working on maintaining really a healthy weight is going to be really, really important. Then in addition, there's some supplements we can use for inflammation or to combat inflammation. Now, ideally, getting all this through whole foods would be the primary goal, but sometimes supplementation is indicated. So certain supplements are going to give you that anti-inflammatory support. So again, your omega-3 fatty acids, like I said, the fish oils, that's something that you can take in supplementation too. But also things like curcum, turmeric, those are very strong anti-inflammatories. And then probiotics, and we'll talk more about gut health here in a minute, but really supporting the gut health is really, really important because, a majority of your immune system is housed in your gut. And so anything we can do that either helps our gut or hurts our gut is really going to have an impact on inflammation. And so we want to, make sure we're supporting that gut health. And one of the ways is with a probiotic, because that's going to help kind of support the good bugs in our gut. And that's going to be anti-inflammatory and really helps benefit and actually improve our immune response. And then vitamin D. Vitamin D is often looked at as kind of that piece of the puzzle for bone health, and it's very important for bone health, but it's also very important for inflammation, meaning that if you don't have adequate vitamin D, that's going to cause more inflammation. So we want to make sure that we have adequate vitamin D in our diet, or if we need to supplement it. And again, we're going into the dark time of the year, and that's where we're going to start seeing decreases in vitamin D. So often when we talk about supplementation, often during the winter in the world where we live, where we have less sunlight and exposure like that, is something that we often consider supplementing during the colder months because we just don't have adequate sun exposure. Now, moving on to the gut, the gut, your gut health is basically extremely intricate and linked to inflammation. Your gut houses trillions of bacteria that play a crucial role really in immune function and the regulation of inflammation. So things that help improve your gut health is eating fermented foods. Now, I'm not a big fan of them personally because I don't like the taste, but I do eat them a little bit every day. But it's really like medicine to me because I don't like the I don't enjoy the taste, but I know the value. So you don't have to eat a lot of it, but your fermented foods, your yogurts, your kefirs, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, these are all contain beneficial bacteria that really are good to support gut health. Also, you want to make sure you're having plenty of prebiotic fibers. Sources of good prebiotic fiber like garlic, onion, bananas, um, sweet potato are all great sources of that fiber that feeds the good bacteria in our gut. And then what I want to really touch on, especially going into this time of year, is avoidance of antibiotics. It seems like as we move into cold and flu season, everyone gets a little runny nose or a cough or cold, and they immediately want to be put on an antibiotic. And the consequences of that are huge because what happens is those antibiotics, while they may kill a bad bacteria, well, first of all, most of the illness people have is a virus, and the antibiotics do nothing to stop it. It's just time. So I could put you on 10 days of anything and you're going to feel better in 10 days, but people often attribute that to the antibiotic. But what it also does is kill the good bacteria in our gut. And it doesn't take a lot of antibiotic to really have a profound effect on our gut. Some of the literature shows that just one series of an antibiotic by mouth, meaning that let's say you get put on amoxicillin or something for 10 days, that one series, it takes a year for your gut to recover. So it's something that the antibiotics have a place, but it's also something that we kind of are probably as a society really quick to want to get put on because we have a cold. And so really, use common sense here and really make sure, do I need the antibiotic? Is it really just a viral illness that is affecting me, and the antibiotic's going to do nothing but harm me? But in addition to that, these other things when you're on the antibiotics, so the prebiotic fiber, the fermented foods, those types of things will help protect and replenish that gut bacteria sooner than not having had it before. And then the environment, exposure to environmental toxins like pollutants, pesticides, and chemicals really trigger a significant inflammatory response in the body. So anything we can do to reduce our exposure to these things is really going to help combat and lower chronic inflammation. So depending on your water source, you may want to filter your water. Often tap water contains contaminations that really contributes to inflammation. So a good water filter is not necessarily a bad investment. Also, organic produce. Often produce is bathed in chemicals. Your synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, all these things are harmful, and we do know that despite washing them, things like that, they're still in the product itself. So organic produce, true organic produce, if it's not cost prohibitive, is going to be better for you to help combat inflammation. And then plastics, I often say don't ever buy the water bottles, the water bottle you see sitting out front of the convenience store in that sun, because they're getting leached with what's called BPA, and this is a chemical that's very much disrupts your hormones and really is pro-inflammatory. So plastics in themselves can, depending on how the product's stored in them, can leach these chemicals into your food and cause some problems. So if you can, opt for glass or stainless steel containers. That's going to really promote overall a better kind of health. And then also moving into the winter months, we tend to close all of our windows, kind of button down the house. And so we really have stagnant air. So clean air is going to be really, really important. So maybe consider using an air purifier, or at times just really ventilating your house to really reduce and remove some of those indoor air pollutants. So, really adopting an anti-inflammatory lifestyle is really a holistic approach to really defend against disease. Now, you can make intentional choices in your diet, how you manage stress, engage in activity, prioritize your sleep, and do things to reduce exposure to these environmental toxins. And you can have a significant effect on reducing chronic inflammation. Now, I know this is a lot of information, and I know some of the things may not fit into your plan, and that's fine. but you can really just make some small, consistent changes, then they're going to yield profound health benefits over time. So really, I would say just start with one or two of these recommendations and really start to try to incorporate them more into your daily routine. And you're going to really just find that you're really starting to feel better and you're really kind of moving your health in the direction you want to go. So